Clay Johnson, and my Gourd art is called Praise and Art because I praise the Lord with my gourds. And I'm going to show you how I'm doing this crackle effect. And I'm going to be using different products, but it's all about the technique, I think. And my friend Nancy Overmeyer is who shared this with me, so I did not come up with this. She did pendants and taught our Kansas Gourd group how to do the pendants, and I wanted to do them on my crosses. So I wanted to do this technique on my crosses with the crackle. And so I have gotten a little bit carried away and want to show the process because I've had lots of questions. The first thing that I did when I got my gourd ready is I wood burned. So I wood burned my basic details, and I'm not being very particular because the crackle's going to change that. So right now I'm just finishing up my painting. I love these vivid colors of the alcohol inks, but even when I've done light colors, the crackle technique has turned out really cool. So right now I'm not really worried about anything except getting some color on there, and then it's all going to change. The fun thing about the crackle is it's very forgiving. If I make a mistake, so what? It'll be really cool by the time I'm all done with it. So first step after I wood burn is to finish painting with my alcohol inks that I'm using. Okay, now I'm going to refresh these a little, and so I can wash my brush out. And then this area is all dry, so I'll let this dry a little more. And so this is Nancy, she says this is the most important step. So what I've got to do now is I've got to cover my gourd with tacky glue. And just a nice little layer, doesn't have to be too thick. I just kind of do a section and then cover it, and I'm going to use my fingers for almost everything I do because my fingers wash out easier than any brushes. Now, I don't really want the crackle on my words, so wherever I don't want the crackle, I won't put the tacky glue. So I'm just putting the tacky glue everywhere that I want the crackle technique. Okay, and just make sure I have a good layer there. And then I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to let this dry up here a little more. I probably could do it, but these are ornaments that are already dry. They've had tacky glue all over them, and I just kind of did bold shapes in my scripture, and so this one has dried and it's ready for me to add the crackle. So I can put this tacky glue away. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my crackle, and one good thing about this bigger bottle is I can just dip my finger in it. The other one, my little bottle, I had to figure out how to close it when my finger was all dirty. So what I'm doing now is I'm getting a thick coat of crackle. Again, I'm going to stay away from my words, but I'm going over everything else so I can come back and make that cross show up later. So I'm just doing a very thick coat. It's a little trickier when it's an egg because I don't have something to hold on to, but I had fun doing eggs with this technique. Okay, so you can tell I'm being generous with my crackle and really letting it getting it thick on there. I'm double checking that I didn't miss a spot. Once it starts drying, I can see it's going lighter colored. And it might drip, that's all right. I need a little bit up here. The thinner I put the crackle, the thinner texture it will be. So sometimes I like the thin look of the crackle, like around my words. That'll gradate off to thicker. Okay, I always have something to wipe my finger off and a washcloth. Now this is ready for me to set. And so I'm going to take my heat gun and I'm going to start drying it. Now, sometimes you'll see it start happening really fast because it's thinner. This is pretty thick, so it's going to take a little while till you start really seeing the dramatic effect. I have another one I'm working on, and I kind of like to do a couple at the same time because I worry about my gourds, if they're thin, that I'll get it too hot and cause it to crack or something. So I'm going to let this guy sit a minute, and I'm working on this lid for my box, and you can see what's happening to the crackle, and there's thicker spots and thinner spots, and as I set it, it's making the crackle turn white, and so you can really tell when it's all dry because the crackle has turned white. Wherever it's not dry, it looks a little gooey, and it just needs longer. So again, I will probably come back to both of these pieces and work on them later. So you can see dramatic change pretty fast on a little piece. The white of the crackle makes it show up really cool. Alright, so we'll leave these alone. I'm just going to let them dry for a minute. On the crackle medium, it says you can let it dry for 1 to 3 days. So, and it doesn't say anything about the heat gun. I haven't tried that because we want to see a result really fast. I'm starting to see some cool crackle going on here on this little ornament. So there we go. So it's kind of fun. But again, I might give it a little rest. I'm also noticing that it's dripping. See how it's dripping? So I just kind of get those extra off of there. No big deal. The crackle is so much fun. All right. Then this piece over here is a piece, well, here's an egg that's been finished. This morning I let it dry overnight. I did most of it, but it had some thick spots, and so this morning I finished the thick spots. So this is ready for me to add a little color because to me that white just doesn't go with my warm color of the gourds. So I'm going to get my alcohol inks out again and freshen them up a little here. And then I am going to add just a touch of color, which will make it match my gourds. And I can use any colors. I can just have fun putting new colors in here. I'm getting a little excited about the browns, but I could definitely do blue on top of blue. And it looks dark. Don't panic if it looks like you lost your color, because the tacky glue is awesome. The tacky glue is going to hold your old color, and so you won't lose it. It's great. So I'm just warming up this egg. It just was too cool with that white, and I wanted the warm color of the gourd. Even though there's just a little bit of gourd left, I am one who loves the color of my gourds, and so I tend to show a lot more of the gourd. Sometimes I've been using this crackle technique on gourds that were yucky, like they had a lot of blemishes or they had bad spots and that were really hard to work with. And there we go. Okay, so that's the next part of the process, and I'm just gonna let that little guy dry right now, and then I will show you the next part. When it's dry, and I always have my little fan, I'll wait a minute on that little egg to show you. This is one that's all dry and all done, and how I kind of warmed up the color so it's no longer white. And then I added the triple thick, which will be my last process. This one is a little box that I did with the Crackle technique. So again, and I had fun shading with the alcohol inks after I did the Crackle. So those are just some examples. Okay, little egg. I still want it to dry a little longer. So we will let it sit here in front of the fan for a minute while I show you a couple more things. This is one I finished last night. I'll probably add some beads to it. But I was pleased with how the blue just showed up over that red. This is a fun one that I have beads that will match this perfect, so I'm kind of excited about that one. And then this one, oops, up here, this is one that had a lot of blemishes, and I just thought the Crackle technique would look interesting on it. So I'm really getting a little more daring with my colors that my children were surprised. This last one, I don't know if I'll add some beads to it, but this one I had trouble with it being all humidity spots, and it's been almost 2 years and it still didn't get rid of the humidity. So I decided instead of wood burning all the details, I would use the Crackle technique. Okay, let's see if yep, he's dry. So the last process in this technique, if I can open it, is to add a diamond glaze, is what Nancy says. And I just had triple thick available. So same thing, I'm going to dip my finger in there and I'm going to cover the whole thing. The reason you have to do this last step is because the Crackle will flake off. It's like you're adding a texture that has, I don't know, it has this funny feeling to it that could easily come off. So this is also a very important step. Now, one thing I was worried about is that it's darkening my color. But last night those little crosses were super dark and they dried and they lightened back up to their bright colors. So that's nothing to worry about. So I'm going to let him dry, and it'll take it a while, maybe an hour or so, and then it'll be done. This shows how this cross I'm going to paint, but all those could easily flake off. And sometimes I want them to. If I got too close, I might want it to flake off a little. So that last step is important. So this is an example of last night. This looked super, super dark and when I covered it, and I was afraid. And as it dried, it lightened up. So hopefully that helps explain this fun process and I've got to get to work. So thank you. Bye.